morning and welcome to the first ever episode of the Morning Spotlight Real Estate Edition podcast, coming to you from the Spotlight Studios in Morristown, New Jersey. I'm your host, Mike Ham. Today we're taking a look at the New Jersey residential real estate market. We got a great panel, so let's meet them and let's get started. Our first panelist has over 5 years of general real estate experience. He's represented purchasers, sellers, and lenders in residential and commercial real estate transactions in New Jersey and New York. He's a real estate attorney at Fein, Kahn Shepard in Parsippany, New Jersey. Jon Sherman. Jon, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Mike. I'm really excited. Definitely looking forward to having a productive, maybe even a little combative conversation here about real estate. We'll see what happens.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. And our second panelist is an accredited buyer's representative, a member of the National Association of Realtors. She's an NJAR Circle of Excellence winner every year since 2016. And the CEO of the Mumoli Group at Triplment in Hoboken, New Jersey, Michelle Mumoli. Michelle, how's it going?
Pretty good. Really excited to be on here.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on. So, Jon, we're going to start with you. So this has to be one of the most unique residential real estate markets that we've seen in a long time. So kind of like take us through what you're seeing right now.
Yeah, so I would say from the beginning of March, right, that first week of March when we were kind of hearing we were going to go into lockdown, things started to become very different because January and February, and Michelle could probably speak to this better than me, right? January was pretty busy for a winter month, right? Like I think 30 transactions came in January and I was like, oh my God, this year is going to boom.
Yeah.
And then March came and obviously COVID had other plans for us. It was slow in March. You know, obviously people were adjusting to being in lockdown. No one was out looking at properties. And by April and May, things picked up. And right now I'm swamped. I am extremely swamped and the market is super competitive. It is in a position where we say this every year, inventory is low, but it's even lower this year because now you have all these buyers we weren't anticipating coming from out of state and mostly just New York City. But we do have in-state, your urban areas like Jersey City, Hoboken, and they're coming out west to your train towns like Madison, Chatham, Summit, even Denville, certain areas like that, Montclair, your busier downtowns that are somewhat similar to Hoboken, because the younger, I'm sure millennials still want that downtown feel, but they would like the train if they now have to go into the city.
Yeah.
Once a month now with everything changing. So yeah, I think that COVID had a crazy effect on our spring market. And now I think we're in that spring market because every day I turn around and it's just a new deal, but it is very, very competitive. I have clients who are losing deals. It's their 10th deal that I'm getting. And, they're telling me, hey, this is my 10th deal. I waived my appraisal. I waived everything because that's the only way I was getting the property. And it's scary. And, it's just very, very different. But, we just have to counsel the clients through it and go through the ramifications of waiving those contingencies because that's what is happening right now, from a competitive standpoint.
Can I ask you something, Jon? Because this just happened to me yesterday, because it's happened so many times in the past couple of weeks where, these buyers, the way that I say it is you will most likely have to waive your inspection and your appraisal. And they're like, waiving, what does that mean? And I'm like, it's just an action to say that you're really interested and you're not going to make a big deal about bigger things. But obviously you have to do your inspection. You need to know what you're buying, specifically if you're moving from a condo situation into a one family home on like half an acre or something like that. What does this land look like to you? To you, it looks totally different than your condo that you've lived in with your neighbor next door with common elements that are paid for by the association. So then I hear that the winning bidders are people not having inspections at all. And I'm thinking like, well, like how, a side note is that I'm getting my broker's, I'm in the process of getting my broker's license for the state of New Jersey, right? So I'm reading all of these things and learning so much about like how to adequately represent someone, and I don't understand how another party can represent their client saying, just don't have an inspection. It doesn't matter what you get into.
Yeah. So, I mean, but that's right now, that's the market we're in. So I'm not going to put it on the agent and say, look, yes, the agent should, I don't want to say counsel, the agent should advise their client to say, look, by waiving your appraisal and by waiving your inspection, this is what you're getting yourself into. And perfect example, I had a client 2 days ago. They offered $725, list was $700. And so to me nowadays, 25,000 over is really not much over, because I just had a deal go 125 over ask, and I got the contract, called my client and said, do you have all this cash? If it appraises for $125,000 less than what you bid, and you go, yeah, absolutely. I don't care. I need to get out of New York City.
Cool.
Like, that's crazy, right? So yeah, I think,
but
to
what
me,
about like you're purchasing a property that you're not familiar with at all, and saying, I'm not even going to do my due diligence at all.
Yeah. So here's my perspective. I always love if my realtors would put the clients in touch with me before they even sign the offer, so I could explain. And it's very rare that it happens. More and more, it's happening now, because people are asking me, well, John, what's going on with COVID? How is it affecting the deal? And to be honest, maybe since April, I really haven't noticed too much of a hiccup. Like, my deals have been closing, my contingencies have been moving forward, even the mortgages have been moving forward. Title's been getting title in certain counties. So, the searches. So I really haven't experienced, from a COVID standpoint, huge delays. And that's not the conversation I really need to have with the client. It's right now, hey guys, here's what happens if you waive your appraisal. Like my client the other day that called me up, and 12 times I explained to her, if you waive your appraisal at the list price, you will now be responsible to bring $25,000 extra on top of your closing costs. Do you have that amount to close? Yeah, not a problem. We get kickback from the sellers. No, you said you were waiving your appraisal completely. We're not going down to the list price. And that's the argument I always have with attorneys and sellers and back and forth. If I came in over and you listed it for X amount, we should be, getting an appraisal that says at least the list price, because you did your due diligence, your listing agent got the comps, you're saying it's worth $700,000, fine. But what happens if it comes in at $500,000? My client shouldn't be on the hook for that. So that's side note. Like, we always have an argument with that, but that's okay. So my client calls me after we get pushed back on the appraisal, and she goes, oh no, I can't do that. I don't have 25K. You just told me yesterday you did.
Yeah.
I said, do you understand what this means? No. And the realtor didn't explain what waiving your appraisal meant. She thought, oh, whatever. It's not a big deal. It's gonna appraise. It's not. Do you know how many appraisal issues I have right now?
Yeah.
So I think that the realtor in the situation with the buyer should say, listen, if you're waiving your inspections, you're saying, I'm taking this property as is with every defect, every issue that might come up from an inspection standpoint, oil tank, environmental, safety, whatever it might be, you're taking it with those issues because you're agreeing to waive your inspections. And if you want to do your inspections, fine. But guess what? They're for informational purposes only. So you can do your inspections.
Doesn't do their inspection. That's what I'm trying to get to.
Well,
I
got a question. So just looking at like you were talking about the inventory being low and like the stuff that's on the inventory, are there new things coming into supply? Like, so the homes and stuff that are on the market right now, they must have been on for, pre-COVID and maybe even before. So it's potential that they're like, dogs at this point. So like, wouldn't it, make sense to make sure that you're doing all that stuff now more than
absolutely. But if you want the property, you're competing with people who don't care. Not that they don't care, but they've been in the property, and to them, maybe they have the cash if something goes wrong. So what they're saying is, look, I need to get out of the city. I don't want to be around a million people. I don't want to be in New York City in the event we have another spike and I'm stuck in my 1-2 bedroom condo and my wife and I are working from our kitchen table.
Yeah.
I'm going through it right now. I have a 2-bedroom townhouse in Madison. I was working during COVID. My wife was actually on, she used to work for Prudential. She took a severance package. She was on maternity leave. Great for her. It was like perfect storm. And of course, instead of having like 4 or 5 months of getting to spend time with the baby, COVID hit. And she spent, I think, way too much time with the baby and ended up getting a new job. So I had dibs on the bedroom desk, right? We have a huge bedroom and I had dibs on the desk. That's where I'm at right now. I'm not in wherever this background is, right? So
Really?
Yeah. So she unfortunately has a setup at the kitchen table because the second bedroom is half guest bedroom, half nursery. So, you know, people in my situation are like itching to get out of their current residence. So if I need to waive an appraisal because this is my dream home and I don't care, I have the cash. If I need to waive my inspections and I understand the ramifications, my attorney or my realtor explain, listen, John, you're waiving your inspections. Normally you'd have 14 days to do your inspection. You get an inspection report, you get a radon test, you get a tank sweep, a sewer scope, and it's going to tell you everything that's wrong with the property, down to the GFIs don't work, right? Mm-hmm. You know, so if you are comfortable with going forward and not having that right to back out of the contract, this means the only way you're going to back out is if you lose your job and the mortgage lender cannot lend you the loan, right? At that point, or a risk of loss comes up and the property is damaged and you can back out of the contract, or title cannot be cleared. It's very rare. Those 3 contingencies, mortgage, title due diligence, and risk of loss are the 3 contingencies that I never really, knock on wood, you know, from a risk of loss standpoint, I don't cancel the contract under that. It's always attorney review, maybe the appraisal. I put that under the mortgage contingency. So I'll take that out. The appraisal contingency, I get out under contracts, right? And inspections. So if you're waiving the 2 most important contingencies, you are going in knowing that I'm taking this property, whatever comes with it, and I just want clients to understand what they're getting into, and having the opportunity to speak to them before they submit that offer is very helpful for me to explain to them from a legal standpoint how that affects them. Realtors can explain that to them to a degree, but look, at the end of the day, if this client has been through
legally, like what is the requirement?
Well, no, you can't advise them legally, but you can at least explain to them.
When the house falls apart the day you close, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but look, you're not responsible. Yeah, you're not going to be liable for that. If the client is so hell-bent on this property, look, you're going to see it. If you have a client who has gone through 10 offers and they lost 10 offers, and they're like, you know what, I'm bidding against the same people. I drive around South Orange and Maplewood and Millburn and Short Hills and Summit, and I'm seeing the same people at those now open houses, right? Maybe you don't recognize them because they're all wearing masks, but you know, I see the same cars, and it's all of us are driving by the same house.
Yeah.
We're all losing the same deals. How do I beat them out? I have to get to the next property quicker than them, put in an offer that's $50K over ask, waive my inspection, waive my appraisal, and say, look, I understand this now, having gone through this 12 times, that I want this property so bad, I'm willing to waive those rights. And it's happening. And as long as the client understands that they have to bring the cash to close and they're doing inspections for informational purposes only, so at least they have, you know, they're going into it with eyes wide open when they close. They do their inspections. Hey, there's an oil tank. SOL, right? Like, that's yours.
Yeah.
There's asbestos downstairs. Like, that's your problem. You're taking it as is. You can't back out at that point.
Right.
You can't. You can try, and then you'll have to fight over whether you breached the contract. In my opinion, I would, as the seller's attorney, I would say you did. You agreed to take the property as is and waive your inspections. And as a realtor, if you're as a listing agent and you're getting that offer, I'd want it to say, buyer waives their inspection contingency, and any inspections to be performed are for informational purposes only. Buyer shall not have the right to back out under inspection contingency, since, same as waived. Like, I wanted to get that specific. I don't want any ambiguity there. Right. Look, if you just say you waive your appraisal, that's fine. But I like to be a little, as a lawyer, I'd like the more words to express how you're waiving your appraisal.
You guys are writing that up anyway. We don't write contracts here. So.
Well, in provision 43, you would.
Yeah,
You can add the excess language.
Sure. We
And that's usually where
I'm always like, you know what? I'm gonna watch my back, and I'm gonna always put in, anything waived up to structural or mechanical, because if somebody doesn't have the money, and I know that they don't have the money to find a giant foundation crack when they're doing their inspection, and all of a sudden it's like, well, now you have to like pour a new foundation, or you have this giant issue here that you can't work with. I'm kind of watching my back.
Of course.
And saying, I'm watching your back by watching my own back and saying, waive it to major structural or mechanical.
Yeah.
And that's my point to my realtors. I urge them to have the client call me before they submit any offer.
Yeah.
So they can wholeheartedly understand what they are getting themselves into if they waive any sort of contingency, right? And I think that's not bad practice. That's good practice. You should want your client to, and look, I get how quickly these deals have to be submitted, but hey, all my realtors have my cell phone number. All my clients have my cell phone number once they're in touch with me. So a simple call will resolve so many issues for me during attorney review,
right?
Because I'm not involved with the negotiation. So I don't know what the buyer's agent and the listing agent discussed that really wasn't in the contract, but it was verbally agreed to, because that comes up too, which I hate. Oh, John, what are you doing? Don't put that in the contract. We talked to the seller and they told us that this wasn't going to, they weren't going to agree to this. Well, you didn't tell me that.
I also dislike that, because
I hate that.
There's a lot of verbal information that doesn't get written down.
Put it in the contract.
Send me an email. Send it in writing. I want nothing to do with that.
Right. So I'm going to shift gears here a little bit. So, Michelle, your offices are in Hoboken. So where are people moving to? Right. So like, are you seeing people come from New York City into Hoboken, Jersey City area, or are you seeing them go further west?
I have some of that. I have, our headquarters is in Manhattan. So I have been flooded with referrals from our Manhattan agents, people coming from Queens, people coming from Brooklyn, people coming from Manhattan. And a lot of the tenants are moving into Hoboken and Jersey City. A lot of the sellers that I'm working with in Hoboken and Jersey City are moving to the suburbs.
Right.
So Bloomfield is untouchable right now. Montclair, untouchable. I can go on and on and on.
It's those
Caldwell, South Orange.
It's those busy, it's those busy downtowns that have a train.
Yeah. If you're following the New Jersey Transit line and you're at least like 5 to 6 block radius from any of those, you're going to get outbid. But I'm a little concerned about the amount of supply, because the absorption rates are astronomical in terms of if there was a property that was on the market during March, it was most likely probably taken off the market and put back on the market in April.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So you're seeing like 7 days on the market, 3 days on the market, and then gone. And then like slivers of inventory here and there. So you're not seeing, I just don't know that once those comps come out, and this is another thing that I tell my buyers is, those comps are great for your future in terms of the property value. But if you continue to wait, those comps are now higher. So you're either getting into a property that needs $150,000 worth of work, or you're buying a property with that work already. And now that comp, which could have been $450, 6 months ago, is now $550 or $600 or $650. So now you've bracketed yourself up almost $200,000 and, in that price point that you really were trying to stay under 5.
Yeah. So that's real quick. So that's bad, right, for your current clients looking for a property, but that's fantastic for my current clients who are under contract who have appraisal issues, because one of my, we had to, I can't, a handful. It's crazy because you have to, and we all understand this, COVID did not help and is not helping appraisal situations right now, because very few properties closed in March, April. So what comps are out there from an appraisal standpoint? Not many. And you're supposed to stay, my father-in-law's an appraiser, so I hear from him all the time, right? Oh, look at this thing. It's beyond the 6 months. It's a mile and a half out of the range. It's a condo unit. They're using a townhouse. So like I lean on him heavily because I want to understand how these appraisals work, because they never make sense to me. And right now, a lot of my clients who are, two clients, $100,000 under offer price. One, I understood because it was $100,000 over the offer, but the other one was $10,000 under ask, and it's still appraised for $100K less. So these clients now have to wait and hope
until something
that 5 properties sell in their range that are similar properties, so their appraisal comes in, because none of these sellers want to reduce the price.
Sure.
And unfortunately, the comps aren't there to justify what they want to list this property for, but they know the market is going to get hot, so they don't care if you back out, because they'll keep it up, take it down, put it back on, and wait for a couple of deals to sell. And so that piece is really bad for your current clients looking to buy, because the property values are just continuing to rise. And it's really good for my clients under contract who need those properties to sell, so their appraisal hits at least the list or the offer price, right?
Yeah. Right. So I guess, what Michelle just asked kind of, jogged a question in my head. So like, how long does this sustain? Right. So like, if the supply is still low, like what happens now? Does the supply stay low, or do people that live in the areas like you were just talking about that are like downtowns, train station, all that, they're like, you know what, maybe we can get way more. So let's just put it on the market now. Like, is that happening, or are people still just too concerned about having strangers walk through their house and all that kind of stuff?
I saw this here in between 2014 and 2016, but being very specific to Jersey City and Hoboken, I assumed that was just in Jersey City and Hoboken, and that lasted for a 2-year period. And then unfortunately there was a tax reassessment in Jersey City, which then kind of plateaued the downtown Jersey City market a whole bunch. The luxury market in Jersey City still is not coming back from that. And not only that, a lot of people bought properties for a lot of money that they really cannot turn around 2 years later and sell for that amount of money for.
Yeah.
So that's what I saw here. And I call that a very macro market, because I'd never seen anything like that. I was getting into fights with every single real estate agent. At the time, I was a buyer's agent only. And now I'm looking at it at a much broader scope, right? Because if you're talking about all of Essex County, all of Bergen County, now you're saying this is not just a macro Ridgewood or Montclair or Glen Ridge type thing where you can say like it's within the confines of this area. But being that people may not ever have to go back to an office, and maybe looking at you park your car, you live 5 miles away, you park your car at the train station, you take it in once a week into the city. Now we're seeing it all over. Like I've spoken to agents down the Jersey Shore, and they've told me like Atlantic Highlands, Rumson, they're like, it's insane, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So the thing is, how long does it sustain? It sustains as long as the interest rates are really low and the supply is really low.
Right.
Because
and I think, look, I try and read as much as I can on real estate to see how the market's doing or is going to do. And, I think something I read was, inventory dropped like almost 30% from last year, but now we have, I don't know what the percentage is of buyers now coming to Jersey, but the one, I guess, area that this will help in terms of inventory are your investors who have a ton of properties that they might be renting at the moment. And they're like, you know what? I don't want the headache. The cash flow is great, but you know what? I don't want the headache anymore. Let's sell the 4-family, maybe in a train town. And maybe that's enticing to someone where maybe they want to live in one of the units like they would be in Hoboken, right? And they have access to a backyard. They want to take whatever it is. Or you have flippers who are, instead of, holding on to 5 properties, they're unloading everything now. Or
right.
Builders. Now the builders, the development market might kick up again. because
but not, there's bidding wars there too. You know what
oh,
I mean?
I know,
It's like
absolutely.
I work with a lot of builders, and we're looking at each other like saying, like, what's the breaking point of somebody actually being able to make money? If you're telling me this asking price is really low and you have 5 or 6 offers that are above asking, at some point, whoever bought it is just a dum-dum who's not going to make any money on it because they're going to end up sitting on it and having to pay all of these overhead fees. All these.
Well, that's why the builders.
Yeah,
that's why now your residential builders need to really focus on the sheriff sales, the REOs.
Yeah, and even those are really.
And the inventory. Look, we do. Yeah, believe me. We part of my practice is, we represent some of the largest REO banks, and we sell those properties on behalf of those agencies and those banks. And the inventory is, in the last 5 years, has consistently gone down, and this might be the lowest inventory has ever been. And this will be part of my bold statement later. I'm not going to give it to you right now. I'm going to tease it. Yeah, I'll tease it. But REO right now is low, but my investors are finding a lot of properties at sheriff sale, and that's where they're not interested in getting into bidding wars over a house that they're going to have to flip or knock down. Yeah. I'm not going to get into a bidding war on that. I'm losing money at that point. You already wasted my time. If I need to submit multiple offers here, like, I've wasted my time. I should have been on 3 properties already and moved on from this one a long time ago. So, a lot of my investors are finding more success going to the sheriff sales, trying to find, and REO is a little more difficult now because now you have, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, who are trying to be more first home buyer friendly and get away from investors, which is not great for investors. So, I do think that so long as the investors in New Jersey can provide us some supply, there's plenty of demand out there, so hopefully the developers and the builders can help us sustain, over the next
years. I've actually gotten into the sector with a few of my developers of creating like a built-to-suit product for homeowners. Yeah. So a lot of these guys do buy those types of properties, and they may be working on them, several at a time, and then all of a sudden it's, you get a buyer coming in from Manhattan that has the funds, is pre-approved, all this stuff. So I'm introducing them to the property as sort of a blank slate, and then we're touring through with them and saying, these are the finishes you can choose. You may even be able to slightly design a layout that works for you specifically now where we're seeing households be combined, multi-generational homes coming together. And that's my sneak peek at my prediction. But
another teaser. That's 2 teasers already in this one question.
That's how you draw in the audience. That's it.
Keep watching. And so to be able to deliver a product like that is, a better end use for that specific buyer. So we get them under contract before we even build anything. Yeah. And then, everything else is built exactly the way that they want it to function, exactly how they want it for them.
Right.
That's great.
So, I mean, maybe going off of that. So from a commercial standpoint, you're seeing like the office market is in like a really weird spot because the current way that the office is structured is probably not going to sustain, into the future. Like people are going to be either making it smaller. There's no more open office setups, no more bench seating, none of that. That's out. So from a new development standpoint and, the stuff that Michelle was just talking about, like, are there things, I mean, outside of the obvious, like more space, backyard, all that kind of stuff, are there things that people want in their homes that, makes it, are there desires changing right now? Like, is what they're looking for changing from before?
I think a lot of my clients, when I'm speaking to them, because I always, so I'm originally from New York, so I have a 718 number. So when I see my clients call me from 718-347-646-212, my first question is, so what's bringing you out to New Jersey? And it's obviously all due to COVID, but I like to understand exactly what they're looking for, because for my own knowledge, I want to see the trend of real estate right now, which is the New York City urban living moving out west. But what are you looking for? And you're right. Aside from the bigger backyard,
That's if you're moving out to the suburbs, period.
What's that?
Yeah.
What's that?
And if you're moving out to the suburbs, you're going to get a yard.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you're getting a yard. So like aside from the yard, what do you want? I want, I mean, if you looked at, I read something yesterday. The market for properties over $1 million or $2 million has been hot because you're getting a New York City resident who has a $3 million condo. Do you know what you can get for $3 million in New Jersey?
Something
mean,
nice.
you know what you can get for $2 million? Go to Harding and get a farm, or go to Colts Neck and get a farm. Go to Harding and get an estate for $3 million.
You get that farm, and there's your backyard. You got
there's your
plenty
backyard.
of space.
Go ride a horse. I don't know, But now instead of a 2-3 bedroom condo, now you have a game room, you have a movie theater, you probably have a basketball court or a tennis court of some sort. You can convert. Maybe like I saw someone say they want a Zoom room, right? Because now everyone's on Zoom. So if you have an office, that's like your Zoom room, and it's really interesting. Like it's completely changed. They want a huge kitchen now because everyone's home cooking.
Yeah.
Right. And the kitchen has always been the big ticket item for me. I love to cook, but now more and more people who didn't cook are cooking, and they can't cook with their small stove or their small kitchen. Their husband and wife are on top of each other. Yeah. So yeah, it's totally changed from just speaking to clients. I can't imagine from Michelle's point of view, showing clients houses, what they're actually telling her.
For me, I think a lot of it is families that are split up in different parts of the country that feel like they can come together. And so because there is, usually there would be like the son or the daughter or whatever, the in-law kid is doing really well in Manhattan, staying in Manhattan, not being able to really see the rest of the family. Now we're seeing, hey, let's move to New Jersey, or let's move to, I don't have my license in New York, but let's move to Long Island or Westchester, where we can buy more property, still be close to our hub, which is where we would need to be a couple of days a week or a couple of days a month, and have our entire family live well, have like an in-law suite, have, more ADA compliance in terms of accessibility for older people that can't get it easily in and out. But if you look at it on the other side of that as well, you're saving money on childcare. If you have parents that are healthy, that are willing to like move in downstairs, and you're pooling all of your resources, because chances are your parents are selling their home or your in-laws are selling their home, and now saying, hey, let's contribute to your household. Let's create a bigger home, specifically at a time when no one really wants to put their aging family, unless they have to, in assisted living, with everything that will continue to go on. There is like, COVID hasn't ended. It's still among us.
Right.
And it's something that we have to deal with. But to be able to pool all your resources, and to be honest with you, a lot of the clients that I'm working with, if they're in a specific tier that don't have super professional positions or in gig, sectors, they do get help from their family. I think everyone's always like, oh, like a little scared to say it, but it's like our generation didn't do that great, So we do get help from our family, and it's totally okay to say it. And
my mother-in-law watches the baby every day. I mean, we pay her, but like without her, we'd be paying $2,500 a month in childcare.
Yeah.
No, we're not paying. We're paying her, but thank God, like we're saving money by she has a private daycare. She's been doing it for like 30 years out of the house, right? And now she has so many grandchildren that she's just watching the grandchildren, because my wife's one of 4 girls, and we have about 7 nieces and nephews now, which is awesome. So she watches all of them, and we all pay her. But if we had to go to, what is it? I don't know, there's like a Little Duck by me, or if there's whatever it might be, you could be spending anywhere from like $1,500 to $2,500 a month on childcare. Yeah. So if you have, I'm not ashamed. I love the fact that my mother-in-law watches my son, and I'm more comfortable too, because now I know he's with his grandmother. She's, who better to be with than his grandmother?
Yeah.
So.
Yep. All right. So we're going to move into our closing segment called Under the Spotlight, where we have our panelists give us one bold prediction. So we're going to start with Jon. You're under the spotlight. What do you got?
All right. So I teased it before. So REO and foreclosure, unfortunately, I think for our economy, I think are going to experience a spike over the next 1.5 to 2 years.
Yeah.
And if you look at, the market and what the mortgage industry has been going through, forbearance and deferment, it's not great for homeowners. Like going into forbearance or going into deferment is not, in my opinion, if you can pay your mortgage, the right move. I get it. If you lost your job, you can't pay your mortgage. So 100% understood. But because of all this going on due to COVID, I don't think the spike's going to be as big as 2008, right? 2007, 8, 2008, 9. That burst was because of the mortgage industry, was because of the real estate industry. This is a pandemic that affected the real estate industry. So to me, I think the real estate market's going to help us get out of this from an economical standpoint in part.
Yeah.
But we're going to have a spike, I think, in REO and foreclosure. Well, foreclosure, which would lead into the REO industry in about 2 years. You'll see it, because those people who went into deferment or forbearance are not going to be able to catch up on that mortgage, and unfortunately, will probably go into default and lose the home.
Yeah.
So it's a bold prediction, but it's like, it's unfortunate that that's.
Yeah. No, I definitely would tend to agree with that for sure. So Michelle, you're under the spotlight now. So what do you got for us?
I hinted at it earlier, but it's going to be families pooling their resources. You're going to see family compounds sort of start to happen. And if you can buy the land and just get a builder to build it for you, it's going to be an easier solution and a better solution, rather than having to kind of do all of these add-ons and worrying about construction after you purchase and all this stuff. So, but yeah, I do agree with Josh. I think it's Jon. Sorry, I think it's going to be very interesting in the next few months to see what happens. But that's
absolutely
market.
I like the family compound. I like that.
Like the Corleones or something.
Yeah. But I
have their own needs met. It's not they're all on top of one another.
And you're gonna want to, and to have that land and to have that extra space to be with the family and have the fire pit outside and whatever. Like, I think more and more people are going that route. That extra space, they want to have all that extra space so they can have people over, but maintain the distance and still, abide by social distancing to a degree. We've been doing it and are more and more comfortable doing it with friends and family, because 5 months is a long time to be kept in your house.
Yes, it is. And the smaller the space, because I'm in a 1-bedroom apartment, the smaller the space, the harder it is to make it through those 5 months.
The walls just close in on you
every day. It just seems like they get a little bit smaller. And next thing you know, I'm just like stuck in like this.
Thank God you got a chance to get out and you're in the Spotlight Studios. So.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I made it all the way to the Spotlight Studios, just right across town. No big deal.
Yeah, nice.
So that wraps up our show. I want to thank our panelists, Michelle Mumoli and Jonathan Sherman, for being on here today. Couldn't have done it without you. To our listeners, make sure you subscribe and leave a review. If there are any topics you want to hear a panel discuss, make sure you send them to themorningspotlight@gmail.com. Guys, thank you for being on with us today. And everybody else, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, Mike.